We open on a fictional city skyline. The sunset gleams off the glass of the Monarch Solutions skyscraper. But what is Monarch Solutions? I'm so glad you asked. My name is Nicole Bryn, and today we will be breaking down one of the best video games to ever be released. In my opinion, at least. This will be my first video in a series where I'll be breaking down different video games. This first series will be called Breaking Down Quantum Break. This first video will be an overview of Quantum Break. I will be explaining why it is one of the greatest video games to ever be created, and I will even give my own theory about the ending. To start, you have to understand the story of Quantum Break. Quantum Break is a sci-fi choose-your-own-adventure, with limitations that I'll explain later, and third-person shooter created by Remedy Entertainment and released by Microsoft Studios in 2016. It takes place in Riverport, Massachusetts in 2016. And 2010, 1999, the future, you get it. Our protagonist meets up with an old friend to unknowingly test a time machine. However, the time machine explodes, leading to stutters in time where time stops for a few seconds to a few minutes. It's your goal to stop time from freezing indefinitely. But who lives in this world? Jack Joyce, the protagonist, is a stubborn man in his late 20s. He's been away from Riverport, disconnected from friends and family for 6 years before coming back for this. He thinks he can fix this fracture by using the time machine to go back in time. Well, that's his initial goal at least. As the lesson of this game is, you cannot change the past. Jack's brother Will tries to show Jack the truth, but he won't listen. Dr. William Joyce is the scientist. He knows how to fix the fracture as he created a device called the countermeasure. But he seemingly dies in the first act, so Jack is forced to step into Will's place without a plan. Until Beth Wilder comes in, the soldier. When Beth was 8 years old, a woman claiming to be her future self gave her a notebook filled with journal entries from then until 2016. And these journal entries actually ended up coming true. So, she listened to them because she trusted it, and did exactly what it said to do, which was to train ruthlessly and become a member of Monarch in order to be a strong man on the inside when time broke. More people working for Monarch are Charlie Wincott, Liam Burke, and Fiona Miller, the inside men. Fiona has been helping Beth since the beginning, whereas Liam and Charlie are both loyal to Monarch at the start, having the darker sides of Monarch hidden from them until they are thrown into this circus. It's mostly up to the player whether or not the boys betray Monarch and help Jack. For now, we of course have to mention the antagonist. Paul Serene is the antagonist. Paul Serene is the friend of Jack's who asked him to come back to Riverport to test the time machine. Will tried to warn Paul of the risks, but Paul was on a deadline. So, when the time machine exploded, Paul was inside. He was forced to go to the future.
I've seen the end of time.
He then went back to 1999, where he relived the next 17 years. Paul knows it's impossible to change the past, so he does everything he can to stop Jack, so that Jack doesn't ruin the future even more. Martin Hatch, however, has a completely different goal from everyone else. Martin Hatch is the villain. Hatch's goal is for time to end forever. You see, there are creatures who have adapted or will adapt to these fractures in time. These adaptations will turn them into monsters, known as shifters, that live in the end of time. Martin, through a random encounter, is already a shifter and wants that world. There are more side characters in the story, but I'll mention them as they're needed. I fell in love with the characters, or hated the ones that are supposed to be evil. After my first playthrough, I even ended up changing my opinion on some of them because I've played so many playthroughs of this. And I love the actors who portray them too. I need to give a praise to Lance Reddick right now. He is the villain of the story. He plays Martin Hatch, so I will be talking shit about his character, but I swear it's not about him. I love Lance Reddick. He's really good in everything that he's done, and the day that I heard about his death was truly sorrowful. So thank you, Lance Reddick, for everything you have done. I hope you rest in peace. Now back to the plot, and I'll bring up more reasons why I love this game as they come up. So, Act 1. Time machine explodes.
No, I gotta let you out. Oh god, no.
No.
Paul is forced to go through the time machine while the Joyce brothers have to escape the Monarch soldiers that were ready to storm in. When Will's life is threatened, Jack's first power is revealed.
Jack, your hands. Gotta keep moving. No!
Jack gains abilities throughout the game. He gains them one by one until you have 7 total abilities that you can combine to their effectiveness. These time powers do stand out to me. They are super fun to play with. Back to the story, Paul, from the future, intervenes.
Jack!
Paul?
Jack, we gotta go.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, Jack.
Will appears to be killed in the library blast, and Jack is taken. You play mostly as Jack Joyce, but there are some short scenes where you play as Paul Serene and have to make a decision between 2 major choices. These choices are called junctions, and the first one is PR, or hardline. We see as Paul overlooks the time machine core and is required to make a decision about what to do with the witnesses. You can either choose the PR timeline.
Initialize a PR campaign.
I want to stay.
And that violence was because of Jack Joyce.
Monarch would take a PR-friendly approach and manipulate the public into siding with us. Our lies would give us control.
The manhunt continues as authorities search for Jack Joyce.
Hey, somebody's sneaking around down there. Hey! I think that's Jack Joyce!
We'd use the media to expose, then hunt for Jack.
I uploaded all the files I stole on that USB stick from the Monarch security station.
But the eyewitnesses would be out there, and Jack would learn our secrets.
Or the hardline approach.
Any potential threats to our plan need to be erased.
Wait!
Monarch would take a hardline approach. Crush all obstacles, eliminate all witnesses. It would be harsh. But I had made hard choices for the greater good before.
I dug through the area and I found everything I could on your bro. This is messed up, man. I trusted Monarch.
But the people of Riverport would turn against us.
You murderer!
Our secrets would be safe, but the public would hate us, and Jack would gain new allies.
Monarch's got no authority to stop you, and you tell that to everybody on that bridge.
I think this is the biggest choice of the game because it truly tells us how evil Paul Serene and therefore how evil Monarch is. After this choice, we come to a live episode. An episode plays after each one of the 4 junctions. Through all the video games I've played over the years, I really like this one. It's definitely a difference and it sets it apart. I know I've said that already, but this, I love it. I've never seen half live action, half gameplay. It was honestly beautiful. Like I said, actors also amazing. In the first episode, we learn about Paul's company, Monarch Solutions, and the people working there, including the Inside Men. No matter the choice you make at that junction, though, Liam gets taken in by Monarch.
Wilder, do not make me ask again. Joyce just took down half my men. You think maybe he had some help?
We're unarmed. I was responding
I do not give a fuck.
Hey, I am with Monarch.
On your knees!
After freeing himself and escaping, Jack had no idea of Will's plan. He just knew that he needed something from the briefcase, and the one thing that he found was the key to the Bradbury swimming pool. At first I was like, why would Jack even think this mattered? But I guess he was right, because they find...
Second time machine.
However, of course, they can't get it working.
We can't fix the machine. But I might know somebody who can. Serene's head of Cronin Research. She'll be at the Monarch Gala tonight, but security's airtight. She'll be nearly impossible to get to.
Unless I have an invite. Paul told me he expected me to meet him at that party.
Something tells me that was not a friendly invitation. Jack, no.
With Jack surrendering to Paul, it's time for Paul to make a choice.
I could still try to reach Jack and make him see reason. Or I could let Hatch deal with him so nothing would distract me from leading Monarch.
Episode 2, Liam finds Charlie and Fiona and makes them get him into the lab where they find out about the lifeboat protocol. Now, this lifeboat protocol is actually really important. It is the creation of Paul Serene. It is a building that houses scientists that can help him figure out how to stop the end of time once it has happened. This lifeboat building keeps them safe from the shifters and the end of time. However, the device powering it is the device that Jack needs to fix the time fracture. Back to Jack in Paul's custody, Jack is basically interrogated by either Paul or Martin, depending on your last choice, but ends up escaping either way. They kidnap Dr. Sophia Amaral at the party, but Jack is forced to fight his own way out while Beth takes Amaral back to the swimming pool. After Jack's escape, you make the choice whether it's Martin Hatch or Sophia Amaral that has been working against Paul and helped Jack escape. The consequences of this action will arise later, but for now, we get to episode 3, Deception. If it wasn't made clear before that Hatch is a traitor, this episode makes it clear now. Paul finally learns of Hatch's deception that we all knew, if you looked at the documents, was already a traitor. We can tell the time is breaking down even more, quickly leading to the end of time. After Amaral fixes the machine, she tricks Beth, sending her to the future. Jack doesn't know what else to do, so he continues his mission and goes to 2010, where he finds Beth has been living again for 11 years.
Dr. Amaral sent me to the future. I fought for months trying to find a way to get back. I followed him back. He set William's machine to 1999, the first possible exit point.
Beth's confidence has definitely been shaken, but she goes with Jack anyway. They get their hands on the countermeasure, but as soon as they do, Paul Serene arrives. No matter the choices that you made before, Paul Serene is at least a little evil.
We failed. We created Ground Zero. Caused everything to happen how it always did. Every piece falling into place.
Except one. The blast sent you through time. Brought you back to 2016. The same exact time from which you left. Something anchored you there. We need to know how you did this.
You think I wanted to come back? Beth, come on, get up. Please, Beth. Beth, you need to move, okay? Yeah, that's it. Get the gun. Come on, Beth, move. Come on, please. Beth, move! Paul, don't do it. Don't do it, don't!
I'm not wrong.
You can't.
No!
After all the betrayal, Paul Serene is clearly losing his edge, not to mention that his Chronon syndrome is worsening. I didn't mention it before, now is a good time to mention it. The Chronons that affected Paul, that also affect Jack and gave him his powers, are poisoning him and changing him. So he needs his treatments, but the lab that Hatch destroyed was where they were creating and kept them. Act 5. With help from some of the inside men, Jack makes his way through Monarch and gets inside the CFR chamber, where the countermeasure is being held.
The problem was, I didn't have a clue how to use it. The only person who did was dead. But Monarch had a way of getting to him before that ever happened. The University time machine. They've got the core here.
Why are you going up there anyways?
Short version, I gotta go back in time and save my brother.
He is then forced to fight through the university again. And this is probably one of the coolest moments in the game. Back at the beginning of the game, when you first are fighting through the university, you can hear on like radios and from people talking, like the soldiers talking, that there's somebody else running around.
Raider team, target spotted exiting the service elevator.
You heard her. Let's go.
And they didn't know which one of them was Jack. It was diverting the soldiers from us while we were playing it at that time. And it turns out it was Jack. Just a different version of him from a different time. That makes this a good point to talk about replayability, because playing this game, there's so much detail, like all those documents, like I talked about, there's so many documents that you can find that will tell you about Monarch Solutions, the people working there, and you'll get backstories from people, you'll get emails between some of the main characters, and there's so many details to read, and even within just the gameplay itself to like listen for and look for. Definitely super replayable, even now that I have played it like about a dozen times. This was the first time that I noticed Martin Hatch at the very, very beginning of the game. Like, dude, he's just waiting there. How did I not notice that? But anyway, there's like so many details, little Easter eggs that makes this game super replayable, and a reason why I absolutely love this game. One of the main Easter eggs that I love, though, is the quantum ripples. These unlock Easter eggs in the episodes and files from the men looking into these ripples. The files are so funny too. They did not need to put this effort into them, but I'm so glad they did.
Paul was positive that the experiment would work, that the figures were correct.
Because his specialists were a bunch of goddamn idiots. Their formulas were missing these variables entirely.
You're seriously making corrections right now?
Well, if they made them in the first place, we wouldn't be here.
Over in the lab at the university this morning, someone solved the equation.
Transcript of related discussion. A time traveler. Really? It could be a time traveler. Look, we can't just... No. It could be a time traveler. But you can't prove it's not a time traveler. Well, you can't prove it's not an alien or a hyper-intelligent dog. Not being able to disprove it doesn't mean, yeah, it could be an alien. God. Transcript of related discussion ends. Other than these ripples being a really good laugh, they are actually really important if you want to have more of those Easter eggs and backstory. Other than Paul's thoughts on the Junction choices, he actually has diaries from his past.
Okay, finally. Found a stutter-proof pocket. This should work. I don't think anybody will ever hear this, but I need to record it. If only for my own sanity. I don't have long until they find me again. The end of time is here.
Will's diary are directly in the game. You can actually watch them while playing as Jack. Beth's diaries are on the events that we know and her thoughts in between acts. We even get a diary from her from 1999, right after she had seen the end of time.
February 28th, 1999. 2100 hours. He got away. Serene is gone. When Amaral sent me through the machine, I thought I'd come out on the other end with a solution in sight. I found the opposite. The end of time. I saw it. I don't know what that means.
Throughout the game, there are little snippets of Jack talking to Clarice Ogawa about what has happened, and we do get to hear some of that interrogation almost in Jack's audio diaries. It takes place 2 months after the events of the game.
How close were you with Serene before the experiment?
He'd been looking out for me ever since we were kids. When my parents passed away, Paul's family made sure I got back on my feet.
But enough about those diaries, they are an added bonus that I absolutely love. But back to Act 5. Jack actually ends up succeeding in saving Will.
If what you said is true, then how did I save you? I saw you die, Will.
Think, Jack. You never physically saw me die, did you?
I watched a roof collapse on top of you.
Creating the illusion of my death, yes, which brought you here to make sure it remained only an illusion. It's all a loop.
Here comes the Dark Night of the Soul moment as Jack's stubbornness combats Will's expertise.
And you gotta let go, Jack. Everything you have done to get to this place is necessary. Trust me. The past is set, but the future isn't.
Jack agrees to follow Will's lead, and they go back to 2016, where the boss fight of the game commences. In order to beat the game, you have to kill Paul Serene. Or at least, it seems like you killed Paul Serene.
Pushing against the entire goddamn universe. Got it!
That isn't the theory that I mentioned that I want to talk about later, but it definitely is a theory that I believe because Hatch is a shifter. Paul does seem to be a shifter now, and Hatch has died multiple times. I don't believe it's confirmed though, so it could be a happy ending.
The countermeasure. It stitched time back together everywhere.
Could be a happy ending. Right?
Of course, I'll have to run a few tests to confirm. But there's no reason to believe that the fracture isn't over.
For one, the ending shows us that Jack is suffering from Chronon syndrome just like Paul was. He presumably must make the choice whether or not he will join Monarch. From Jack's diaries that were recorded on this day, I think whether Jack decides to leave Monarch or join to dismantle or make it better, he will never trust Monarch and hopefully never will become like them.
They're all traitors to Monarch, linked by—
Traitors? You say Monarch's mission is to save us from the dangers of the future? Now, Beth devoted her entire life to that cause. The one thing that could stop the fracture? Her sacrifice is what kept it safe. Everything you built, everything, was based on that device. The device she fucking died to preserve, and she's the traitor?
We can make up an extended ending in our head, but until we hear news of a second game, that is the ending. And I do mean the ending. I told you it was a limited choose your own adventure story. When I first played the game, I thought it was a cop-out, to be honest. Less mocap to film and edit, but then I realized that is literally the whole point, and realized it was brilliant. You can't change history. We learned that despite your beliefs, in this universe, it is literally impossible to change the past. And I told you that Jack, he follows Will. That doesn't necessarily mean he changed his internal beliefs, though.
Paul Serene's entire philosophy was that time is a set path, and nothing can be changed. At the time, you obviously disagreed. But after everything you've seen and done, we need to know. What do you believe now? Or is it possible to change things?
I'll come back for you.
The internal tragedy Jack was supposed to overcome was just that. Therefore, this story, Jack's story, is actually a tragedy. So what does this have to do with the ending? Well, the ending can't change because this is the past. Paul and Beth both saw the end of time. Paul created a whole company because he knew time would end in 2021. But his scientist projections showed that it would happen way sooner. I believe Paul was right. The game devs even confirm it. Prima Games released an instruction manual by Remedy Entertainments for Quantum Break alongside its 2016 release. On page 46, we find the section Closed Loops. It reads, "One of Quantum Break's core principles is that of closed loops. Nothing ever changes. Whatever time travel that happens in it is already part of the whole. A person who is about to travel into the past has already been shaped by the time travel they're about to undertake, regardless of whether they're aware of that fact. This document is confirmed canon, so this tells us that at least some of my theory is true, yet it asks the same questions I have. Quote, Jack and William managed to stop the fracture and keep time from ending. At the same time, it's also true that Paul Serene and Beth Wilder have both been to the end of time. Assuming that nothing changes, that raises a larger question. If this event did not result in the end of time, what did or will? I think I have the answer, and that's Jack. A part of him still believes that he could use the time machine to go back in time. He wanted to save Beth so bad that he uses the time machine again and breaks time for the second and possibly final time. I tried to find anything I could about this being canon, about Jack actually going to find Beth, but I can't, so for right now it's just a theory. Let me know your theories down below. But I do think it would make a great idea for a second game. I know sequels are often bad, but I think this game truly has so much potential. There's so much that is left to discover about the characters and the world. I have so many ideas for what could happen. Obviously that event, but also seeing how Martin became a shifter in the first place, Paul's future as a shifter, Beth growing up with the notebook. There's so much us fans want to know about the past and future. With it being a time travel game, it's even easier to do that. Sean Ashmore, who plays Jack Joyce, seems willing to come back in some sort after tweeting an agreement that there should be a second Quantum Break. The director of Quantum Break reposted Sean's tweet with just a heart emoji, so the idea is at least in the air. We know Remedy isn't against sequels, as they came out with Alan Wake 2 last year in October of 2023, but with the vague tweets from director and actor, doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. Either way, this game will always be tremendous, whether or not it stays a standalone piece. In conclusion, Quantum Break is a timeless masterpiece, no pun intended, that will always be at the top of my list because of the plot, the gameplay mechanics, the episodes, the characters, the replayability, and the reasonable and worth it sequel and prequel possibilities. If you want to see more videos on Quantum Break or more deep dives on video games in general, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, please like down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.